They were once two hearts building a forever out of whispers, promises, and quiet trust, until a single question entered their love, and everything they built began to shake. Once upon a time, love was simple for them. It lived in morning smiles, in messages sent just to say, "I'm thinking of you," in the comfort of knowing someone chose you every single day. Their love wasn't loud, but it was steady. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Trust was the invisible thread holding their hearts together, strong enough to carry dreams, fragile enough to need care. But doubt never arrives with noise. It does not knock on the door. It slips in quietly, disguised as concern, wearing the mask of, "What if?" What if the smile means something else? What if the silence hides a secret? What if love is not as sure as it feels? And slowly, love that once felt safe begins to feel uncertain. Doubt has a dangerous talent. It turns imagination into evidence. It takes small misunderstandings and stretches them into stories. A late reply becomes a reason. A change in tone becomes a threat. The heart starts listening less to love and more to fear. And fear is a poor narrator. It never tells the whole truth, only the parts that hurt. As doubt grows, love starts changing its shape. Conversations become interrogations. Care turns into control. Affection feels heavy, no longer free. Two people who once rested in each other's presence now stand guarded, protecting themselves from wounds that haven't even happened. Love, which once felt like home, begins to feel like a place where one must constantly prove their innocence. And the tragedy is this: doubt doesn't destroy love in a moment. It erodes it slowly, like water breaking stone. Each unanswered question, each unspoken fear, each assumption left unchecked takes a piece of love away. Until one day, both hearts look at the ruins and wonder when love stopped feeling like love. Yet love was never meant to survive on certainty alone. Love survives on faith, the quiet decision to believe in someone even when fear whispers otherwise. Because when doubt is allowed to lead, it destroys what love patiently built with time, trust, and tenderness. In the beginning, love never asks for perfection. It does not arrive with a checklist of flawless behavior or constant reassurance. It begins with trust, soft and unspoken, like holding someone's hand without wondering if they will let go. Trust is the first promise love makes, even before words are exchanged. It is the belief that the other heart means no harm, even when mistakes are made, even when silence appears, even when life gets complicated. They did not fall in love because they were perfect. They fell in love because they felt safe. Safe to speak without rehearsing. Safe to be quiet without explaining. Safe to show weakness without fear of being judged. Trust was the ground beneath their love, invisible but strong, allowing them to build dreams without measuring every step. Love grew because trust whispered, "You are safe here." But trust is not loud. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, quietly doing its work. It allows love to breathe. It allows two imperfect humans to choose each other again and again, without keeping score. When trust is present, misunderstandings become conversations, not accusations. Distance becomes patience, not suspicion. Love flows naturally when trust is not questioned at every turn. The danger begins when love is expected to be flawless. When one starts believing that true love never forgets, never changes tone, never causes confusion. That expectation slowly poisons trust. Because real love lives in real lives, where days are messy, emotions fluctuate, and people grow in different ways. Trust understands this. It does not panic at imperfection. It does not rush to doubt. In a love story, trust is the quiet hero. It does not shine like romance or thrill like passion, but without it, love collapses under its own weight. When trust is strong, love does not need constant proof. A simple presence is enough. A simple word is enough. Love feels lighter when trust carries the fear. And when trust begins to fade, love starts working harder just to survive. Every moment becomes a test. Every action needs explanation. Love that once felt effortless begins to feel exhausting. Not because love has changed, but because trust has been replaced by questions that were never meant to exist. Doubt never announces itself. It does not arrive with warning signs or dramatic moments. It slips into the heart quietly, almost politely, pretending to be concern, pretending to be awareness. At first, it feels harmless, like a small question that deserves attention. A pause in a conversation, a delayed reply, a distracted smile, tiny moments that once passed unnoticed now begin to linger in the mind. In love, doubt often begins when expectations replace understanding. The heart starts expecting consistency in every word, every gesture, every emotion. When reality fails to match that expectation, doubt gently asks, why? It doesn't accuse, it wonders. And the mind, eager to protect the heart from pain, begins searching for answers that may not exist. Doubt feeds on silence, not the peaceful silence of comfort, but the unspoken kind, the words that should have been shared but weren't. Instead of asking, the heart imagines. Instead of listening, it assumes. The imagination becomes a storyteller, filling gaps with fear rather than truth. And fear has a way of sounding convincing when love feels vulnerable. Sometimes doubt is planted by past wounds. Old betrayals, broken promises, and unfinished goodbyes follow the heart into new love. Even when the present is gentle, the past whispers warnings. The heart remembers pain more easily than peace, and doubt uses those memories as proof that love can fail again. Doubt also grows when love is watched more than it is felt. When actions are analyzed instead of understood, when every change is questioned instead of embraced. Love becomes something to monitor rather than experience. And in that constant observation, the heart forgets how to trust what it once believed without effort. What makes doubt dangerous is its patience. It doesn't rush to destroy love. It waits. It gathers moments, misreads emotions, and slowly reshapes perception. Love remains the same, but the way it is seen begins to change. The heart starts doubting not just the other person, but its own worth, its own place, its own security in the story they are writing together. And without realizing it, love that once felt certain begins to feel fragile, as if one wrong moment could make everything fall apart, as if happiness must now defend itself against invisible threats that were never truly there. Imagination can be beautiful in love. It dreams of futures, shared mornings, and forever promises. But when doubt enters the heart, imagination changes its purpose. It stops creating hope and starts creating fear. It paints pictures not of what is, but of what could go wrong. And those imagined moments begin to hurt more deeply than any truth ever could. In love, reality is often simple. Two people trying their best, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding. But imagination, when fueled by doubt, refuses simplicity. It searches for hidden meanings in ordinary moments. A silence becomes a secret. A busy day becomes distance. A missed call becomes a sign. The heart starts reacting not to actions, but to stories it has written on its own. What makes imagination so powerful is that it feels real. The emotions it creates are real: fear, jealousy, insecurity, sadness. The body responds as if betrayal has already happened, as if love has already been lost. And so the heart begins to grieve for something that exists only in thought, not in reality. Imagination thrives in unanswered questions. Instead of seeking clarity, the heart builds its own explanations. These explanations are rarely kind. They assume the worst, because fear believes it is protecting love from future pain. But in trying to prevent hurt, imagination creates it. Love becomes wounded by scenes that never occurred. The tragedy is that imagination does not need evidence. It only needs possibility. And in love, possibilities are endless. Every unknown becomes a threat. Every change becomes a warning. The heart starts living in imagined futures rather than present moments. It stops enjoying what is happening now, because it is too busy preparing for what might happen later. As imagination grows louder, reality becomes quieter. Real affection feels less convincing than imagined betrayal. Real reassurance feels weaker than imagined loss. Love struggles to compete with a mind that has already decided to doubt. And slowly, the relationship begins to suffer, not because of real harm, but because imagined harm has taken its place. The most painful part is that imagination often accuses silently. It does not speak its fears out loud. It punishes without conversation. Love is left confused, trying to fix wounds it did not create, trying to prove innocence against crimes that exist only in the mind of someone who once trusted without question. Love rarely breaks all at once. It crumbles slowly, quietly, in moments so small they seem harmless at first. A love that once felt like a safe place begins to change its shape, not because the feelings disappear, but because the atmosphere around them grows heavy. What was once warmth becomes caution. What was once openness becomes hesitation. In the beginning, they spoke freely. Words flowed without fear of being misunderstood. But as doubt settled in, conversations started carrying weight. Every sentence was chosen carefully. Every emotion was filtered. Love stopped being a place of rest and became a place of effort. Two hearts still cared deeply, yet both felt the need to protect themselves. The safety they once felt together was built on trust. When trust weakens, love loses its foundation. Small misunderstandings no longer felt small. They echoed longer, hurt deeper. Apologies were given, but not fully received. Forgiveness was offered, but not fully believed. Love began walking on fragile ground, afraid of triggering another wave of doubt. Affection also started to change. Touch became cautious. Smiles became uncertain. The comfort of being close was replaced by the fear of being questioned. Love that once felt natural began to feel conditional, as if one wrong step could lead to distance or accusation. The heart learned to hold back, not because it cared less, but because it feared being misunderstood. Silence grew between them, not the peaceful silence of companionship, but the uneasy silence of unsaid feelings. Things that needed to be discussed were avoided, because every conversation felt like it could turn into conflict. Love was no longer a safe place to land, but a place where emotions had to be guarded. And slowly, without anyone noticing the exact moment it happened, the love that once felt secure started feeling lonely. Two people shared the same space, yet felt miles apart. They still remembered how safe love used to feel, but remembering only made the distance more painful. The crumbling wasn't loud or dramatic. It was gentle, gradual, and heartbreaking, leaving behind a love that still existed, but no longer felt. Like home, love is always a choice, especially when fear begins to speak louder than the heart. Faith in love is not blindness, it is courage. It is the decision to believe in someone even when certainty feels fragile. When doubt has shaken the foundation, choosing faith becomes an act of emotional bravery, a quiet rebellion against fear's constant warnings. Fear demands proof. It wants explanations, reassurances, guarantees. Faith, on the other hand, asks for presence. It asks for honesty, patience, and the willingness to trust what has been built over time. In love, faith is choosing to remember the reasons you fell in love when fear tries to rewrite the story. It is choosing to see effort instead of searching for faults. Choosing faith does not mean ignoring feelings. It means facing them without letting them control love. Fear often comes from the desire to protect the heart from pain. But love was never meant to be risk-free. Every deep connection carries the possibility of hurt, and faith accepts that risk without turning love into a battlefield. When faith leads, communication changes. Instead of accusing, the heart asks. Instead of assuming, it listens. Instead of preparing for loss, it invests in understanding. Faith creates space for growth, for mistakes, for healing conversations. Love begins to feel human again, imperfect but sincere. Faith also means trusting oneself. Trusting that you are worthy of love that stays. Trusting that you can survive discomfort without destroying what you cherish. When self-trust is strong, doubt loses its power. The heart no longer panics at every uncertainty. It learns to breathe through fear rather than react to it. In love, choosing faith is choosing softness in a world that encourages walls. It is choosing vulnerability when distance feels safer. It is choosing to stay open even after doubt has tried to close the heart. Faith does not erase fear, but it refuses to let fear decide the fate of love. And when faith is chosen again and again, love begins to heal. Trust starts to return, slowly, gently. The heart remembers how it felt to feel safe. Love regains its warmth, not because fear disappeared, but because faith became stronger than the doubts that once threatened to destroy everything love had built.